Alright guys, so we're going to be looking at the iPhone 13 versus the S21. These were the 2021 flagships, continuing our series of looking at, these older phones here. iPhone, I guess, versus, Samsung flagships. So let's go ahead and take a look at the price. So you can see the iPhone has remained around $327. It's actually been going down quite a bit. And the Galaxy has pretty much stayed at this price point. $169 for a very good condition version. So it's a very cheap phone as well. I think a really good deal. So yeah, so you're going to be definitely paying a bit more for the iPhone 13 here. If we take a look at the overall design here, you can see which design do you guys like more. My S21 is a little bit beat up, as you guys can see. But yeah, so iPhone 13, let's see, definitely a little bit shorter, and it's also a little bit, I guess, kind of sharper to hold. It's very boxy, very sharp right here, like on the edges here. I think the S21 is a lot, smoother, more comfortable. And yeah, so overall hardware wise, both phones look pretty good. Both phones are IP68 dust and water resistant. Samsung did something pretty interesting this year. This is actually a plastic back. So this is not a glass back like the S20 and the S10. So Samsung did that, and people complained about it, and then they went right back to a glass back. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant, but the iPhone is a full glass and metal phone here. All right, so if we look at the display, Alright, so if we look at the displays here, there are a few changes that we saw from the last video here. So with the S21 here, it's a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's 120 Hz HDR10 plus, 1300 nits peak brightness. But instead of a 1440p panel, this is now a 1080p panel, and it's 421 for the PPI. Now, the iPhone, it does have a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It is HDR10, and this also has a 1200 nits brightness, and then it's 1170 by 2532. So the iPhone 13 now has a higher resolution than the S21, and then we also have 460 for the PPI, so it has a higher resolution and a higher PPI. And you can see that they shrunk the notch on the iPhone 13. It still looks, dated compared to the S21 here. And you can see the S21 is now a flat display as well too, compared to the S20's curved panel. And both displays look really, really good. Again, the iPhone 13 is still being held back by its 60 Hz refresh rate. You will see this when we come to gaming performance on how, Apple is behind, because these older flagships can, still play games at 90 frames, and the iPhone, it can play games at 90 frames, I'm sure, but there's no high refresh rate. So it's a little bit unfortunate. And the biggest thing you'll notice here, again, just like yesterday, is this animation. So the animations are just not as smooth on the iPhone. So let's go ahead and talk about the specs a little bit more here. So the S21 has the Snapdragon AAA processor. We also do have Android 14 on here. This will get Android 15, and that will be its last majorOS update. We'll get security patches after that. And then we also have 128 gigs of internal storage, and we also have 8 gigs of RAM on this base model here. And then with the iPhone, we do have Apple's A15 chipset. We also do have 128 gigs and 4 gigs of RAM on here as well. And this phone should get, a lot more updates than the S21 for sure. So when we look at the Geekbench scores here, you can see, again, the iPhone with the better score in the single and the multi-core score. And yeah, it's just like last time, the iPhone chips are just really impressive when we go back and look at these chipsets. Now again, the S21 still feels blazing fast because, again, the 120 Hz, and they pretty much feel to me on the same level when it comes to overall speed of these phones here. Let's open up Subway Surf. So you guys can see the S21 is still really fast, even though we have a higher score. Try PUBG. So yeah, so if you are playing games and stuff like that, the iPhone is pretty good. You playing stuff like Genshin and stuff like that. You know, that it has that extra power. But the S21's processor is really good. The only thing I don't like about this chipset is that it gets a little bit warmer than I would like. And you see we got into the PUBG really fast there on the iPhone there. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about gaming performance. And like I said, you have much better settings on PUBG. We could play at the 90 frames as opposed to being stuck on the 60 frames on the iPhone. But again, the biggest complaint with this processor is that it gets a lot warmer than, you know, people would like. And again, I'm not a heavy gamer, but this processor has always been pretty good for me. But I understand if you are somebody who really plays a lot of games, yeah, this phone can definitely heat up for sure. The iPhone, again, does a great job with gaming. But again, we can only play at the 60 frames. And it's very smooth, so it really depends on if you're like a casual gamer. But as you guys can see, still very smooth. HDR Extreme. Really no issues here. Alright, let's try the speakers at max volume. Yeah, I just think the iPhone speakers are definitely better, a lot fuller sounding. Yeah, it's just a lot better with the bass. It just overall sounds more full. So again, Face ID is going to be on here, but you also have the two methods on Android, which I've always loved. You can do face unlocked, or you can do the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. And I just really like having the fingerprint scanner. I really don't like, you know, the face unlock really all that much these days, having to position your face, especially if the phone is at an angle or something like that. I just really prefer the fingerprint scanner. Alright, so how do the pictures look? So let's go ahead and talk about the specs. So we have a 12 megapixel standard, a 64 megapixel telephoto lens, which can get us up to 30 times zoom on the Galaxy, since we do, you know, have a triple camera setup. So we also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. We can shoot in 8K 24 with a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. Now with the iPhone 13, it's a dual camera setup, 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then we have 4K 60 video on here. We can go up to 5 times zoom. And then we also have a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. Check out these side-by-side stills in video. Now the overall battery specs on here have been pretty decent. Both of these phones do decent for me. I think the battery health on here is, oh, it's 100%. Yeah, that's right. And then the battery health on this one is also pretty good as well. Battery life is okay on both of these phones. The standby time is not really that impressive, and overall screen on time is decent if you're a lighter user. If you're gaming, you're gonna have to charge both of these phones. So I would say it's not like super impressive on either of these phones. Yeah, I do like the S21. It got some of the AI features as well, like the circular search, but it didn't get anything else. I think that really would have brought it over the top if it got, more of the Galaxy AI features. iPhone didn't get any of the, AI stuff, of course. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think of this comparison.